that he was about 6 feet tall, that he was completely scourged all over his body. He was crucified.
It was like when I first met God. You know, when he asked me to become an actor, I felt this great peace and love.
He put up his own money, filmed in ancient languages, and hauled cameras onto stone streets that looked older than history. That decision should have ended a career. Instead, it triggered a cultural shockwave and set off stories that people on that set still can't explain. If you want more no-fluff deep dives that cut past the PR, tap like right now and tell me in the comments who I should cover next. Your picks decide the next upload. Mel Gibson wasn't trying to please a studio. He was chasing something heavier than approval. No executives wanted a brutal subtitled passion play in Aramaic, Latin, and Hebrew. He bankrolled it anyway. He lined up Rome's Cinecittà for control, Matera's jagged hills for texture, and swore off anything that felt modern. No easy dialogue, no softening of edges, only the final hours, as raw and unguarded as a winter gust across open stone. That vow shaped every choice afterward. You can't promise absolute authenticity and then blink. He didn't. Casting had to match the risk. Jim Caviezel wasn't a celebrity face you'd see on late-night shows. That was the point. A lesser-known lead would disappear into the role. Before the ink dried, Gibson warned him, "This could brand you for life. You might never work in this town again." Caviezel didn't flinch. He said yes, and the production marched toward a hill that would change both men. Then the sky answered. During a crucifixion set up on the hill they were using for Golgotha, the weather snapped, and a lightning bolt hit Caviezel. The set went silent. People sprinted, then froze. It wasn't the only strike. Assistant director Jan Michelini was hit as well, twice over the course of production. Jokes stopped, whispers started, and injuries piled up that had nothing to do with makeup. The injuries kept coming, and they weren't theatrical. During the scourging setup, a metal barb caught Caviezel's back for real and ripped a long groove into his skin. Later, under a wooden cross that weighed like it meant it, he fell and his shoulder popped. The sound you hear in those moments isn't acting. It's the shock of pain escaping before the camera can look away. Weather hammered them too. Cold that chewed through costume layers, sudden wind blast that toppled gear, air so raw he started slipping into hypothermia. Makeup couldn't keep up. Real bruises bled through painted ones. The line between performance and experience kept blurring. All of that would be drama enough, but the plan outside the set was just as aggressive. There were no glossy junkets, no charming talk show laps. Instead, the movie went straight to pastors, screenings in fellowship halls, Q&As with clergy, congregations booking out entire rows and rolling into multiplexes together. Momentum moved from pulpits to ticket counters, one weekend at a time. Ash Wednesday hit, and the numbers snowballed. An R-rated period film in ancient languages, with no marquee star, started beating studio tentpoles that had spent months buying billboards. With that surge came a wall of debate. Jewish leaders raised alarms that the portrayal could reignite old hostilities. Commentators split on intent versus effect. Was this faithful to the Gospels, or did it lean into images that history had already abused? Then there was the violence, unyielding, clinical, and almost ritualistic in how long the camera held. Some critics saw a meditation on sacrifice. Others called it punishment, a 2-hour gauntlet that left viewers raw. People fainted, people sobbed, people argued, and still, theaters filled. But that wasn't the whole story. The fallout for the two men at the center would be harsher than anyone expected. Caviezel felt it first. After the premiere noise faded, the phone didn't ring the way it should have. He'd carried a global hit, yet casting chatter cooled. He spoke later about a warning he'd received before signing on, that this role could shadow him for years. It wasn't a dramatic line. It was a forecast. He kept working. Features here, then a strong run on television. But the sense lingered that one choice had redefined him in rooms he couldn't see. He didn't recant. If anything, he leaned harder into projects that matched his convictions. Some viewers saw principle. Some gatekeepers saw risk. Careers often pivot on invisible conversations. Gibson's path was rougher. A traffic stop in 2006 turned into a headline spiral with alcohol, ugly remarks, and apology statements that never fully caught up to the damage. More tape, more anger, more fallout. A public image can survive disagreement. It rarely survives repetition. For years, he worked around the edges, rebuilding, directing when he could, acting when it made sense. The irony is heavy. He made a film about suffering and sacrifice, then watched the public turn his own life into an open case file. Whether you think the backlash was inevitable or earned, the effect was the same. Every move now carried extra weight. Meanwhile, the industry learned something. There was an audience that would mobilize when a movie spoke their language. Distributors began testing faith-forward campaigns. Studios greenlit projects that once looked too narrow. Some worked, many didn't. None matched the force of the original event because you can't bottle a storm and pour it twice. But the blueprint, speak to communities, not just demographics, never went back into the drawer. And then the whispers started again. Not about the past, about a return. Talk turned to a sequel, the kind of follow-up most directors would dodge. How do you continue after a crucifixion? Gibson's answer wasn't a safe timeline. He teased something stranger. Time bending, realms beyond the visible, a descent into the place the ancients called Sheol. Not a tidy linear tale, but a vision that moves between the aftermath on Earth and the unseen war around it. The ambition felt familiar. Use the oldest story and make it feel newly dangerous. Caviezel signaled he was ready to return. Older now, but willing to step back into a role that had changed his life once already. Talk of digital de-aging floated around, not as a gimmick, but as a bridge between eras. The practical plan pointed toward Rome again. Sound stages where you can build darkness and light, and stone courtyards that hold echoes even when they're empty. The more people asked for details, the less the team gave. A guarded production can be a marketing tactic. Here, it sounded like protection. When you work at this scale, with this subject, leaks can distort the whole frame before anyone sees a single shot. So the message stayed simple. It's coming, it's ambitious, and it will test expectations. Whether you're a believer, a skeptic, or just a fan of daring cinema, that kind of promise has gravity. But the pull around this project wasn't only about announcements. It was about memory. People who were there the first time still talk about the days when the set felt heavier than the lighting rigs. And the idea of going back to that weight on purpose made the sequel feel less like a repeat and more like unfinished business. Some stories from that first shoot are public. Others live in half-whispered memories. An actor who played Judas said he arrived an atheist and left with faith. Extras remember moments when a crowd scene fell quiet for no reason anyone could explain. Crew members talk about dreams that started during production and lingered for months. Not horror, not superstition, just a sense that they had stepped into a narrative that doesn't behave like normal fiction. A few people pulled back from interviews later, not because they had nothing to say, but because they weren't sure how to say it without flattening it. Sometimes, silence is the more honest version. There's also the physical ledger. Real cuts, real cold, real exhaustion that seeped into the footage. You can see the breath in the air and the shake in Caviezel's hands. You can hear wind roar under dialogue and then cut off, like a door slamming. Weather doesn't follow call sheets. That tension gave the film its texture. It also left marks that didn't fade when the lights turned off. Audiences met that weight in their own ways. Some fainted. Some left angry. Some walked out steady and then broke down in the parking lot. Others felt nothing and wondered what the fuss was about. That spread is what happens when a movie stops being only a movie. It becomes a test of taste, of belief, of how much pain you think art should show when the subject is sacrifice. There isn't a single right answer. There is only the fact that millions showed up again and again to look straight at it, which brings us back to now and what it means to return to a story that still divides rooms. Here's the part that makes this more than nostalgia. The first film proved a few hard truths. A director can bypass the system if he's willing to pay the price. Language isn't a barrier when the emotion is undeniable. And communities can fill theaters without a single late-night interview. It also proved that art can wound, even as it moves. And that blowback doesn't care about intention. If the sequel lands, it won't be because of spectacle. It will be because it dares to ask what happened in the quiet days after the cross, on the streets, in locked rooms, and if the director is right, in realms our eyes don't usually see. So here's my challenge for you. If this breakdown gave you something to think about, hit like so more people find it, and drop a comment with the next film or figure you want unpacked. You guide the next deep dive. If you disagree with anything here, say so. Tell me why. The debate is the point. As for the final question, it's simple and it isn't. Was this just cinema done with conviction, or was there a pressure in the air that no soundstage could account for? A lightning strike is explainable. A scar is explainable. A career turning on one choice is explainable. But put them together and you feel the tug of a bigger pattern. Maybe that's projection. Maybe that's perception catching up to the oldest story we tell. Either way, the second chapter is loading. Stay curious, stay critical, and if you want front row seats when the next investigation drops, subscribe now and turn on notifications. Your support flips the algorithm and keeps these long-form reports coming. I'll see you in the comments. Tell me, just a movie or something more?